I asked you, what was the worst advice you got about stroke recovery from a healthcare professional? And you all delivered. Let's get into it. So our first commenter said, you've got 3 months and you won't see any improvement after. Is that a standard reply, only to psych you out to do better than that? I'm 5 years post-stroke and still seeing improvement. There's a lot going on here. So firstly, I think we need to say, hopefully that's not a standard reply. Usually the myth that we see perpetuated is you're not gonna make any more progress after 1 year. And let me tell you a little bit about where that comes from. So the brain is in a heightened state of neuroplasticity, or its ability to adapt and make changes, make new neural connections or reconnections after a brain injury like a stroke. And that heightened state of neuroplasticity is usually the highest between the first 3 to 6 months up to a year. So what usually happens is you're seeing the fastest amount of progress happen during that time period. And so sometimes people think that when that slows down after 6 months or a year, that your progress is stopping, but that's just not true. It's continuing, it's just slowing down. Due to COVID, we will be unable to send you to physical therapy. This commenter's former doctor, and that is how they met me. I think, of course, COVID and the pandemic was a complicated time to say the least. There were a lot of things that were happening, especially in the healthcare space, that, we weren't necessarily prepared for. Doctors, therapists, nurses, we were all trying to kind of figure things out. But to just blanketly say, well, you can't get any therapy, good luck on your own, and we're just gonna send you home, and that's definitely not the right approach to take. So many teletherapy laws were relaxed or changed during this time period to allow more access to different types of healthcare, including therapy, occupational and physical therapy, specifically rehab therapy. For physicians to not look into these options and just say, this is where we're at, is definitely not the right response. An occupational therapist said to me, stop stretching your fingers. If your hand closes up, it's better than having straight fingers on your hand. You could only slap people with it. Instead, if you keep your hands closed, you could grab objects. There's something that we sometimes help spinal cord injury patients develop. It's called a tenodesis grasp. And it's where we allow someone to have their flexors, the muscles and tendons that flex the fingers, we allow those to deliberately shorten. And this is because it allows that person to get a functional grasp. Now, we're only going to develop this with someone who we know we're not going to get any of that active finger movement back. But with a stroke survivor, we're gonna work towards remediating or getting that movement back. Encouraging someone to essentially develop a contracture, where in this case for a stroke survivor, they're probably just gonna get those tight muscles and then have no functional movement in that hand, is just not a good thing to do, and I don't think this therapist knew what they were doing. You need to prepare for this life because it's not going to get better than this. This was said a few days after my stroke when I couldn't even sit up in bed. A few things here. One, you tell somebody they're not going to get better, that this is it, you are dealing a crushing blow to their hope for the future. I'm not saying that you have to be unrealistically positive or overly optimistic, but we know that this is just simply not true. If somebody is a few days out of their stroke, this is probably one of the worst ways that they're gonna be, and they can hopefully only go up from here. The fastest amount of recovery we're seeing in that first 3, 6 months to 1 year. And so to tell somebody a few days after their stroke that, hey, this is it, it's just blatantly not true and completely crushes somebody's hope. Alex, you're never gonna walk again. My reply was, pish posh, I'm gonna walk out of here. I walked from the wheelchair to the car after 8 days in the ICU. When somebody has a stroke, understanding what functionally has happened in the brain, what the healing process is of having a neurological injury that is a stroke. We can't necessarily blanketly state to someone that you're never gonna walk again at that point in recovery. This is so early on in the ICU, and while the stroke may have been severe, and severity of stroke can predict the way that some people will recover, you can't just give a blanket statement like that when the recovery process, where you're at in that recovery process is just so early. I was asked by my former physical therapist what I would like to work on, and I said putting my pants on while standing up. And she asked me, why I wanted to do that. The following week, I was dropped from their program and never given an acceptable reason. I'm still struggling with many things. So first of all, I'm just so sorry that you're still struggling with stuff and that they dropped you from their program. What we're taught as students when we're in therapy school is to work with our patient to identify goals. That's what we should be doing when you first come in for an evaluation. We look at how you're functioning, and then we sit down and we should be having a conversation and say, hey, what is most important to you? What do you want to work on? And then we create goals around the things that you want to work on. I do wonder if perhaps this is a physical therapist. Oftentimes, getting dressed, doing those types of activities of daily life comes back to occupational therapy. Maybe this therapist thought that working on putting on pants was beneath them. But when we think about everything that goes into putting on pants, needing to either stand up or figure out ways to lay down and shift so that you can get those pants up and over your bottom. Being able to have the fine motor coordination to button in, to zip, just trying to get up to standing to be able to pull up your pants. There are so many things that go into putting on pants that even a physical therapist could be working on, even if you're not working on putting the pants on themselves. My doctors have no real answers for anything except to say it's stroke related. To say the least, that's very frustrating. So first of all, I just want to validate what you're feeling. That sounds incredibly frustrating. What I would venture to guess is your doctors just don't have the time to sit down and answer all of your questions. I know that, when I go see my doctors, I'm very lucky that I have some very good doctors that I will go in prepared with my questions and they will sit with me as long as it takes. But I know that that is not true of everyone. So it may be that your doctors feel really pressured by time because they have a lot more patients they have to go see. And so they're not able to sit down and give you the care that you really need. Instead of sitting down and actually talking about those things, simply saying, oh, well, it's stroke related is just not helpful. I was told there was no reason for my chronic pain and it was in my mind. Wrong. Unfortunately, I think this is true for a lot of people who experience chronic pain. Acute pain and chronic pain are very different in the way that our brain is communicating to our body. We get in this cycle with chronic pain where the brain is constantly telling the body, hey, you're having pain, you're having pain, you're having pain, even when you shouldn't be feeling that pain, or it's perhaps a stimulus that shouldn't be causing that level of pain. And so sometimes people just aren't believed when they talk about having chronic pain, especially people of color and women historically are less believed than white men. And especially related to stroke, chronic pain can definitely happen as a result of having a stroke. You may have shoulder issues like a subluxation or a frozen shoulder develop that causes that chronic shoulder pain. You may have other issues happen like central post-stroke pain, or CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome, can develop. You may have neuropathic or nerve pain that develops after your stroke. You really have to advocate for yourself with your healthcare team, with medical professionals in your life to get the treatment that you really truly need. You won't see much change after 1 year because recovery is done before 6 months. Is this true? I'm bringing these up again. This myth is so pervasive and healthcare professionals are still telling their patients this. No, it's not true. You can definitely still see change after 1 year. You can see change after 5 years. You can see change after 15 years. You can see changes after 20 years. Our brain is capable of making neuroplastic changes at any point in our lives. What we do know about it is that it slows down as we age, but that doesn't mean that the possibility of making changes isn't there anymore. Thank you all so much for watching. This is a new video format for me, so I would love it. Leave me a comment, let me know what you think, and if you'd like to see more videos like this. Of course, if you found this video helpful, give it a like, and if you're new here or haven't already, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and click the bell to get notifications for when I post new videos. Post-Stroke is a nonprofit, and you can help us keep our content free, either by giving us a super thanks by clicking in the YouTube bar below, by giving us a one-time donation via PayPal, or by becoming a Patreon member, where in exchange for a monthly donation, you get access to cool perks like social media shoutouts, behind-the-scenes footage, and even YouTube shoutouts, of which I have some today. A huge thank you to all of our patrons, and a special thank you to Heather G, Ryan D, and Modus Nova in our Empower tier. We can't do what we do without you all. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.